happiness. All right, here we have a speech of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, which was given in 1991. And relevant to this week's Torah portion, this week's Torah, the Shabbat reading is, it's called Shabbat Chazon. Chazon. And it's the vision of Isaiah. And the Rebbe Lubavitcher said that it's the vision that every Jew can see the third temple. That's what he said. You have to know how to see it. And when some people say you see it when the Haftorah is read. In any case, you can see the third temple. Okay, on one hand, you can say, well, that doesn't make any sense. On the other hand, you can say, I'll tell you something that makes even less sense. It says that the third temple is already made. And it's with all of its details. Meshuchlal, it says. And it's just waiting to come down and be manifested in the world. So what does that mean? It exists. How does it exist? I mean, what do you mean? It's just there's radar. I think that every inch of the whole atmosphere of the world is covered by some sort of surveillance. That there is, the sonar, radar, whatever they have. No one has detected in any way a huge building, which probably weighs, I'm no architect, but I imagine it weighs like a million tons at least, a huge place. It's floating around. Where is it? I don't know. Where is it supposed to be? What does it mean? So the answer is that we don't know what reality is. We don't know what reality is. What we think is reality in this world is 99.99999% our imagination and our misinterpretation of what's really going on. And the real truth of the world and what's really happening, what is life, what is a body, what's a human being, is very, 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 very concealed. And the third temple somehow or other is more real than anything else, and it will be revealed in this world, right? So that's what we're saying. Here we go. Yomim Elu, these days, ubefrat and especially, the Bo'enu Mishabas Tisha B'Av. We're coming from Shabbos Tisha B'Av. Okay, this was that year that the Rebbe spoke. Tisha B'Av fell on Shabbat, and so it was pushed off to the day afterwards. Okay, so it comes out that this is still the Shabbat right before Tisha B'Av, and this is also by us. It's the Shabbat right before Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av this year, we said, is on on Thursday. So Wednesday night is going to be. Back then it was on same thing. But still, this is the Shabbat. This coming Shabbat is the Shabbat right before Tisha B'Av. Aim Yomim, there are special days regarding the Mashiach. Now again, the Rebbe wants to stress to us and point out to us that Mashiach is not a religious idea. It's not a religious idea. I mean, it's also that. And it's not a Jewish idea, of course, which it certainly is that. Mashiach is a reality idea. A person is going to come, and we don't know how important people are, and he's going to change the whole, priority system of the whole world. Everyone's paradigms are going to change. Okay. In addition to the fact that this is one of the basic faiths of the Jewish people. The Maimonides said there has to be 13 essential faiths of the Jewish people. I should wait for the Mashiach impatiently. That he should come any day. What does it mean? What does it mean that he should come every day? And especially now, B'chalal in general, we're waiting that Mashiach should come, not just in a general way. Yes. Kamadubar, like it's explained many, many times, Shalafi calls Simani Agula, according to all of the signs of what the future redemption is supposed to be. Hare, behold, Hine Mashiach Ba. Mashiach is coming, or he's here. Take up him yad immediately. The fact that he has not actually come, it's not understood. The word ba implies that he's come. It also implies that he's coming. Moshiach. Harizeh, behold, this mudgash yoter, this is explained in the days of the month of Av. Like it says in the Midrash. The month of Av especially stresses the coming of the Mashiach. Like it says in the Midrash, Allah Aryeh b'mazal Aryeh b'hichriv et Ariel. So it says in the Midrash. The Aryeh, the lion, comes in the mazel, in the zodiac constellation of the lion, and he destroyed the Ariel, the lion, in order that the lion will come in the mazal, in the zodiac, in the constellation of Aryeh, of the lion, and he will build the lion. What's it mean? It says, the lion, that was Nebuchadnezzar. He'll come in the month that the astrological sign is the 5th month. That's Av. Its astrological sign is Leo. Vehichriv at Ariel, and he'll destroy the lion. The holy temple was called the lion because it was a little bit wider in the front than it was in the back, so it was crouching like a lion. Until Almanat, in order that should come the lion. Who's the lion? This is God. In the zodiac month of the lion, and it will transform our mourning to joy, and it will build the Ariel, and it will rebuild the temple. In other words, in the month of Av, there will be the building of the 3rd temple. And that, when is the month of Av going to be? This week, this Wednesday. Mikdash Hashem Konani Yadecha, like it says that God Himself will build the 3rd temple. Yetera Mizu, and even more. Zui Yakavana, this is what it means. Almanat. It says that the Nebuchadnezzar came and he destroyed the temple in order. The reason that the temple, the 1st temple, the 2nd temple were destroyed in this month, it was destroyed not by accident, it was destroyed in order there should be a 3rd temple. And the 3rd temple is going to be better. We're going to see it's worth it. How this could possibly be, I have no idea, but it's going to. Ubemudgash. This is also hinted in the name of the month. What is the name of the month? The name of the month is Av. Like the custom of the Jewish people, the month is called not Av. The custom is to put the word Menachem there. Menachem Av. Comforting the month of Av. Shalifnei of, before the word of, which we said that's bad. There's one month that was destroyed, the temples. Lifnei Shem HaChodesh b'Torah, before the name of the month is Makdim, and we say Menachem. Nachamat Agula. Namely, we will be comforted by the future redemption. Hamora, this indicates, B'Chodesh said that this in this month, Tavo Nachamat Agula, will come the comfort of the future redemption. Hanachama al kol inyani Av, this is the comfort on all of the topics of the month of Av. In other words, all the terrible things that happened in the month of Av, this is also the month, I think, that the Jews got expelled from Spain. There was a whole bunch of other things that terrible happened. It says all of these we'll see when the future redemption comes, that all these were really good. They were just steps into something that was really, really, really good, that no one has ever in the history of mankind experienced this type of good. Infinitely better than going to heaven. Heaven is like small change. Right? Heaven is like small change. We'll realize that something is going to happen that's going to make this physical world really good, worthwhile. Heaven, you leave the body and you go up to heaven. That's already a sort of a good thing. You know, you leave the body, go up to that's not good. The ultimate good is the body. The physical world, that's the ultimate good. It says that was why the temple was destroyed, in order that we shouldn't get too connected to the world as it is. But there's going to be a whole new world It says there's going to come the lion, which is God, in the month of Aryeh, which is the month of Av, and he'll build the Ariel, the third temple. That's what it means. We'll see that the descent was worthwhile. That will be our comfort. In the Menachem, in the month, I mean, it's very hard to bring some sort of an example. I can't really, comprehend how anything could possibly comfort us and explain all the suffering that the Jews have suffered. I don't get it. But I mean, it's going to happen. Somehow or other it'll happen. Okay, I don't know. They have these videos. Some people showed me these videos of a guy that goes in the street and he goes up to a poor person. He finds poor people and he says, "Listen, can you do me a favor? I haven't got any money. I need the dollar. Will you give me $1 for the bus? This to the dollar for the bus." So this poor person, he's sitting there and thinking, "Man, all I got is $1." He says, "Okay, listen, all I have is $1. But if you really need it, okay, take the $1." So this poor guy, he's like lost all of his money. I don't know if this is a good example, but I'm giving it to you anyway. And then this person says, "Listen, my friend, I was just wanting to see. I don't need the money. I have a lot of money. I wanted to see if you looking for kind people. Here, take $1,000." The person says, "What? I don't believe it. $1,000." He was sitting there begging money. If somebody gives him like a dollar or something, that's a big deal for him. $1, $5 is happy. At $10, it's like a holiday. These guys gives him $1,000. So it was worthwhile giving him this money. Okay. So somehow or other, it's going to be the same thing. I don't know. I mean, to me, it's to bring any sort of an example that in any way can explain the suffering and the pain that this is. It's sort of like I want to say blasphemy. Anyway, it's going to happen somehow or other. We're going to see something's going to be so incredibly good that's going to just explain all the Lubavitcher Rebbe said before he was 3 years old that he already had woven in his mind how Moshiach is going to come and he's going to explain all the suffering of the Jewish people. So first of all, the Rebbe was already thinking about all the Jewish people when he was 3 years old. And the suffering of the Jewish people and how Moshiach is going to somehow or other not just take away the suffering. He's going to explain how the suffering was good. Okay, that's what it means. Menachem, B'chodesh Menachem Av, in the month of Av, this is especially powerful in the 9th day of Av. You want something bad, the month of Av is bad. That's nothing compared to the 9th day of Av. Whether because of the general day, and because of the set, especially in this year, it came on Shabbat. Okay, we have to leave this part out for us, but the rest of it we have to utilize. Omer Rizal, the rabbi says, Yom Tisha B'Av, that on the day of Tisha B'Av, when the temple was destroyed, Yalid Malka Mashiach, the Mashiach was born. Where do the rabbis say this? They say it in the Talmud in Yerushalmi. So the day that the temple was destroyed, that's when the Mashiach was born. This Choser al Atzmo comes every month, every year on Tisha B'Av. Because on the day of the birth of a person, when a person is born, it says Mazlo Gover. It's a lucky day for him. His Nimsa, so it comes out Shabbat Tisha B'Av, that in the 9th day of Mizgaber Mazlo, there is raised the power of the Mashiach Tzikenu. Hu Yom Mesugal, this is a special day for the Geula Mitit Tashlema, for the future redemption. The Mashiach is supposed to come, Tisha B'Av. This is especially relevant to the law, Jewish law. Like it says in Kisvei Arizal, in the writings of the Arizal, She'omrim Tefilas Nachem, we say there's a prayer called Nachem. It's a comforting prayer. We say this on Tisha B'Av in Mincha. Because then in Mincha of Tisha B'Av, it says that's when the Mashiach was born. And the Mashiach is called Menachem. So if you look, you'll see in your prayers of Tisha B'Av that there's nothing special in the daytime, but in the Mincha prayer, we say this prayer of an extra prayer we insert in the middle of one of the prayers. 18 prayers, excuse me. This prayer, which is called Menachem. Comfort God, comfort us, the mourners of Zion, comfort us. We're crying, we're mourning, we're suffering, and so many were killed. Please, God, comfort us. That's the prayer. The Yesh Lomer, we can say, when Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat, and the fast is pushed away. Like I say, it's not this year. It was back then in 1991. It came that way. It says then is also pushed away all the bad things about the fast. Okay, the time is that we can say this, that all the things, everything in the world, including also the highest things in the world, and the upper angels, like the angels and all this stuff, everything in the Sefirot, the whole reason that they were created was they were created for the Jewish people. And they were created for the sake of the Torah. The thoughts of the Jewish people, Kadma the Torah, they came before the Torah. Somehow the thought of God that there's going to be a Jewish people, that's before the Torah, higher than the Torah. The Torah was given for the sake of the Jewish people. Like it says, Savas B'nai Israel. So there must have been the idea of the Jewish people was there before the Torah. Because God said, give the Torah to the Jewish people. So when the Torah was given, there must have been a Jewish people before. Speak to the Jewish people. Harizeh, lo titachen metzius ba'olam. So there can't be any existence, including time. And that God made the sun, the moon. Everything was created for the sake of the Jews. The Torah created the world, and the Jews, and the Torah created the world, and the Jews preceded the Torah. So therefore, everything exists for the sake of the Jewish people. Now again, it's not for the sake of the Jewish people to receive, but it's for the sake of the Jewish people to fix it up. Asher tafriya o tachlosh. So therefore, there can't be anything in the world that can disturb or weaken this revelation of God in the world by means of the Jewish people. Unless the Jewish people decide not to do it. Kolel, including how much more so inyan, ko-ikri, so essential in the Jewish people, like the birth of the Moshiach on Tisha B'Av. Okay, so here we're getting really serious. What are we saying? That the world was created from the Torah, and the Torah was created for the Jewish people to use to refine the world. And the most worldly part of the world is Tisha B'Av. What happened to Tisha B'Av? Gentiles, murderers. They were simply murderers, big time, professional murderers. The Babylonians, the Romans, they took over the world by murder. And they were the lowest of the lowest. They were idolaters, and they were debauched people, and they raped, and they pillaged, and they killed. It says there were rivers of blood. There were the people they killed. Murderers. That's the lowest, most, how do you say, worldly part of the world. It says, nevertheless, the whole entire business, everything was created for Moshiach and for the Jewish people to transform it. How much more so when it happens that Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat, which is that how it was on the year that the Rebbe spoke, since that the Jewish people, they are the partner of Shabbat. So when it's created on Shabbat, then for sure it's a special thing. So you can ask a question, which I hope people do ask this question, is what's going on over here? Here the Rebbe is saying, this was like 32 years ago, the Rebbe was saying this. And he was saying that now Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat, so that really fixes everything up. And that really brings Mashiach, and that was 31 years ago, 32 years ago. Hey, what's going on? If it didn't happen back then, and that was like the most propitious of the propitious that the Shabbos felt, so how is it going to happen now? That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is, if it didn't happen back then, that was special, and it was for sure it's going to happen now. It's not like we missed a chance. It was supposed to happen back then, and for some reason the Mashiach is just, the door didn't open up, or right, the bus didn't come, or whatever happened. I don't know. But for sure it's supposed to happen now. I said, for sure Mashiach is going to come. That's a for sure. It doesn't make any difference that it hasn't come. He hasn't come from. That's what the Rambam even adds on. Even though the Mashiach delays, he has the 13 principles of faith. And he says that one of the 12th of the 13 principles is that you have to believe the Mashiach is going to come. And he adds on, and even if he delays, nevertheless, every day I will await his arrival. Because what's Mashiach going to be? It's not going to be this one person and he's going to start, just have a big army and just start killing people, everyone that disagrees with him or something. No. It's going to be one person that somehow or other is going to change the whole value system of the world. It's going to change the value. People are going to really start. What does it mean? People will start listening to their own conscience. Everybody knows in their own conscience that murder is bad, that these licentious things that they're doing now is bad, stealing is bad. Everybody knows it. Everyone in the world knows it. It's part and parcel of the creation. But the reason people don't do it, they don't have the power, they're not encouraged, they're not whatever. Mashiach will give them the power. He'll encourage everyone. But he's just going to bring out what already is, the power of the Torah in the world. Okay, so he says, so let's go, here we go. So it says, that's what it means when Shabbat falls, Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat. When Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat, so it pushes away Tisha B'Av. You don't fast on that day, you fast the next day. On Shabbat, it says the Jewish people, they are above, separate from the world. That's the idea of Shabbat, returning to the Creator. And they're also separated from the other days of the week. That each one of them, every day of the week has its partner. Right? Yom Rishon is connected to Yom Sheni. Yom Shlishi to Yom Revi. Yom Chamishi and Shishi. Then Shabbos is alone. Shabbos, who's the partner of Shabbat? It says, Shabbat, because God said to Jews, the Shabbat, who's your partner? The Jewish people are your partner. The Shabbat is attached to the revelation of the Geula, of the future redemption. Like it's stressed in the song of the day. Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbat. It says it's the song for the day of Shabbat, the day of the Shir La'atid Lavo. It's the day in the future, the day that everything is going to be Shabbat. Shabbat is the day when you feel God. But call Shabbat, every Shabbat is something like the future redemption where you feel God in everything. It's impossible to say that Shabbat could be pushed off. Shabbat, Chas v'sholom, in Yenalazeh Eitzel Bnei Yisrael, that such a high thing as Shabbat could be pushed away by something bad. The reason that Yom Kippur pushes off Shabbat, Yom Kippur pushes off, we don't eat a meal on Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippur is simply better than Shabbat. It's higher. It's closer to God. It's called Shabbat Shabbaton. But Shabbat for sure is not going to be pushed off by a terrible thing like Tisha B'Av. It pushes away even the worst thing in the world, Tisha B'Av. So we see that Tisha B'Av, it's possible to push it away. In the latest Mashiach, Tisha B'Av, this is the idea of the bill. That's something like what it says that the Mashiach will be born on Tisha B'Av. Shabbat doche et kol inyanim bilti ritzuyim. Shabbat pushes away all the bad things of Tisha B'Av. Mashiach can come on Tisha B'Av if it falls on Shabbat. But the bad things, the fast, the suffering, all the things which is the opposite of the redemption. In fact, it says when Shabbat, Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat. Like again, I want to repeat it. Not this year. This year, Tisha B'Av falls on Wednesday. When Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat, and so it says you're supposed to be happier on that Shabbat than the other Shabbats, to show that you're not in any way mourning. This reveals even more, Satan strengthens even more all of the things of the future redemption, which are going to be in the Tisha B'Av. How it is that Tisha B'Av is going to be transformed to good. We get a little taste of it on Shabbat. B'frat, and especially this Shabbat, Tisha B'Av is Shabbat Chazon. That is this Shabbat. Shabbat Chazon Chazon Yeshayahu. Chazon means seeing. And this Shabbat, Marin l'kol echad v'echad, each and every Jew sees the third temple. Like it's known that the Reb Levi Yitzchak of Erditchev, he said something about this. He said that there's a garment of the king. It says Me'av sheyesh lo ben yakar. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Erditchev, he gave two examples. This is once upon a time there was a king that had a son that he loved very much, and he gave him a garment, beautiful garment for his birthday. And the son immediately went out and played baseball or whatever, and he wrecked it. So his father said, "What did you do?" He said, "Well, you know what? You gave me a garment. I played it. No, you don't have to. It's a beautiful garment. What'd you wreck it up for?" He said, "Oh, I'm sorry." So the father said, "Okay, I'll give you another one." So next year, he gave him another one, and the son did the same thing. So the father says, "I see you don't know how to respect the garments." "Yeah, what can I do? You know, I love to play soccer or whatever it is. I just didn't have time to take it off." So the next year, he said, the third year, it says on his birthday, he brought him another garment. But this year, he doesn't give it to him. He just shows it to him. He says, "Here, if you change your ways, you get this garment." We're talking about the Nimsha, we're talking about the Holy Temple. But nevertheless, Hamora Shegili Amikdash, the revelation of the third temple, will be drawn down more revealed than just a garment. Shekorov Yoter Ladam Mimakaf Arachok Tabayas. A bias is more encompassing than a garment is. But nevertheless, Rebbe Levi Tzukladitchev, he brought an example from 3 garments. But the fact is that God is going to be the third temple. Says God is showing it to us. You messed up the first temple, you messed up the second one. The third one, here I bought it for you. I've got it. I'm holding up. Here it is. See? We see it on the day that the temple was destroyed, far away. But God doesn't give it to us. Eventually, He will. Al derech ha'inyan, like it says, the big day kahuna, like for instance, the garments of the holy high priest. Move ephod shows that Shagila, that the revelation, the Moshiach Yisrael of the Savior of the Jewish people, on this day, who Biyoter Seder is even more and more powerful. So if you want a day that encourages us and reminds us that Mashiach for sure is going to be, Tisha B'Av is the day. That's the day when we're shown. Ubamugdash is the end of the part, that's at the end of this week's Torah portion, and that's what we're learning in Torah Or. That Isaiah, after he chastises the Jewish people, he says to them, but listen, the Jewish people are going to be redeemed through Torah and its prisoners by means of us giving charity. In other words, don't worry about it. God is showing us from far away. There's a third temple. The redemption is here. It's just waiting for you. Don't give up. Any second is going to be. Says when Shabbos falls on Tisha B'Av, this is especially stressed that we eat and we drink on this day. There's a pleasure, there's a mitzvah to get pleasure on this day even more than before. Okay, so we see from here that the day of the fast day, if it does fall on Shabbat, not only does it negate the fast, but even more, the main thing is you have to be happy. And you have to get pleasure when Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat. Again, this year doesn't do that way. Tisha B'Av falls on Wednesday, but when it does fall on Shabbos, and occasionally it does, and on this year the Rebbe said, so we see that it's possible that the suffering of the third temple, the suffering of the destruction of the first and second temples, the suffering will not just be alleviated, it'll be taken away, but it'll be transformed to the third temple. It'll be transformed to pleasure, to eating. The fasting won't be fasting anymore. Sheishlam, we can eat meat, we can drink wine, eat meat. We can say that this day of fast, if it falls on Shabbat, you have to add even more than a normal Shabbat to show that it's. What's the explanation of this? We'll talk about, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's have a Yom Yom.